Nigeria, a giant of Africa, bursting with potential. Investors clamored, eager to be part of our success story, but something went wrong. The giant stumbled, and its fall from grace has been heartbreaking. Where once there was prosperity, now poverty casts a long shadow. The dreams we dared to dream have dissolved into a bitter reality. Our streets, once alive with hope, are now haunted by despair. How did this happen? How did we, a nation so blessed, become a cautionary tale? This is the story of Nigeria's fall from grace, a descent into poverty that has left an entire nation reeling. The irony is cruel. Nigeria, blessed with abundant natural resources, is now the poverty capital of the world. Over 133 million Nigerians live in multidimensional poverty, more than half our population deprived of basic necessities: food, shelter, education, healthcare. The faces of our children tell the story most poignantly. Malnutrition is rampant, stunting the growth of a generation. Their laughter, once the soundtrack to our lives, is now too often replaced by the sounds of hunger and desperation. This is not just a story of economic decline, it is a story of human suffering on a massive scale. Crumbling infrastructure, hospitals lacking basic supplies, schools failing to provide a decent education. The very fabric of our society is fraying. But even in the midst of this despair, a flicker of hope remains. The indomitable spirit of the Nigerian people persists. How can we reclaim our nation from the grip of poverty and despair? This is our story, our sorrow, but it is also our challenge. The year 2014. Our economy, fueled by surging oil prices, was the envy of Africa. Lagos pulsed with the energy of progress, a magnet for investors. But like a mirage, it was an illusion. The seeds of our decline were already being sown. By 2023, the mask had fallen away, revealing the harsh reality. Nigeria's economy, once the pride of Africa, had shrunk to a shadow of its former self. The statistics paint a grim picture, but it is in the lived experiences of everyday Nigerians that the true cost of this economic decline is most keenly felt. Over 133 million Nigerians are trapped in multidimensional poverty. Inflation has robbed us of our hard-earned savings. The dignity that comes with providing for one's family has been stripped away. The streets of our cities are now thronged with beggars. The despair is palpable, a suffocating weight on the soul of our nation. The most damning indictment of our economic decline is the mass exodus of our young people. They are the lifeblood of our nation, brimming with talent and energy. But faced with limited opportunities, many see no other choice but to seek their fortunes elsewhere. They leave behind families, friends, and the land of their birth. Each departure is a painful reminder of our collective failure to create a Nigeria where dreams can take flight. The once bright flame of foreign investment has dwindled to a flicker. Investors are now fleeing, repelled by our toxic mix of corruption and policy inconsistency. Big names, multinational corporations, have quietly packed their bags. The consequences are felt most acutely in our industrial heartlands. Jobs have been lost, livelihoods destroyed. Without investment, we are adrift, a ship sailing without a rudder. Corruption. It's the cancer eating away at our core. Over $400 billion stolen since our independence. Imagine what that money could have built. Instead, these billions have lined the pockets of a select few. The wealth that should have been ours has been squandered. How can we, as a nation, stand by and allow this to continue? Let's talk about the fuel subsidy scam that went on for so long, until subsidy was removed by the current administration just recently, and, although Nigerians are yet to feel the positive impact of this policy, the government claims to subsidize fuel to make it affordable for the masses for many years. But who benefits in reality? The wealthy, not the poor. Every year, billions of dollars were poured into this bottomless pit. And what do we, the ordinary citizens of Nigeria, get in return? Daily blackouts and skyrocketing petrol prices? The tragedy of corruption in Nigeria is that it is not just a crime against the present, but a theft from our future. Every naira stolen is a nail in the coffin of our collective aspirations. It robs us of the resources we need to invest in education, healthcare, and infrastructure. Think of the young girl denied a decent education. Think of the sick mother, forced to watch her child die. These are the human faces of corruption. Public service, once a noble calling, has been transformed into a vehicle for personal enrichment. Those entrusted with power have betrayed that trust. This culture of impunity trickles down from the highest levels of government. We, the people of Nigeria, must rise up and reclaim our nation. We must demand accountability and transparency. The fight against corruption is a fight for the soul of Nigeria. The youth. They call us the leaders of tomorrow, the future of Nigeria. We are a generation adrift, our dreams dashed against the rocks of economic hardship. Unemployment cripples our generation. Over half of us are condemned to the soul-crushing reality of joblessness. The education system churns out graduates ill-equipped for the challenges of a globalized world. The social contract lies shattered, leaving behind a bitter legacy of betrayal and despair. Desperation breeds desperation. When legitimate avenues to success are blocked, some turn to desperate measures. Yahoo internet fraud, a symptom of a deeper malaise. Others risk everything on perilous journeys across the Sahara. They brave scorching deserts and ruthless smugglers for a chance to escape. Is this the legacy we were promised? A generation forced to choose between a life of crime and a perilous gamble with death? Every young Nigerian who flees represents a loss for our nation. We are hemorrhaging talent, our most valuable resource. The doctors, nurses, engineers, entrepreneurs, those who could rebuild our nation. They are choosing to invest their skills in countries that offer them a chance to thrive. When our universities lack basic equipment, when research funding is but a pipe dream, when meritocracy takes a back seat to nepotism and corruption, is it any wonder that our brightest minds seek opportunities elsewhere? This brain drain is not just an economic loss. It is a cultural tragedy. It robs us of our artists, our writers, our musicians, our innovators, those who give voice to our collective soul, who shape our national identity. We are left with a void, a sense of profound loss, a nation bleeding talent, its future hanging precariously in the balance. The year 2014, remember that? Foreign investors flocked to our shores, blinded by our oil wealth. They saw us as the next big thing. Billions flowed in, fueling growth and creating jobs, but the tide has turned. Investors are now heading for the exits. The numbers tell their own story. Countries like Ghana and Kenya are now attracting the investment we need. Remember the promises? The grand pronouncements, the glossy brochures, the assurances that Nigeria was open for business, that we were ready to embrace the global marketplace? Those promises now ring hollow, exposed for what they were, empty rhetoric designed to lure in unsuspecting investors. The reality on the ground is far different. Foreign companies, enticed by the promise of high returns, soon found themselves entangled in a web of bureaucratic red tape, opaque regulations, and a culture of corruption that demands bribes at every turn. The stories are legion. Companies forced to navigate a labyrinthine bureaucracy, their projects stalled by endless demands for permits and approvals. Investors confronted with demands for bribes, their refusal met with threats and intimidation. Contracts awarded not on merit, but on the basis of political connections and backroom deals. Is it any wonder that trust has evaporated? That investors, their fingers burnt by their Nigerian experience, are now looking elsewhere for opportunities? The exodus of foreign investment has had a chilling effect on our economy. Factories, once humming with activity, now stand idle, their machines silent, their workers laid off. The jobs that were promised have evaporated like a mirage in the desert heat. The impact is felt most acutely in communities that pinned their hopes on foreign investors. The refinery was never built, the promises broken, the hopes dashed. This is the true cost of our failure to create a conducive investment climate. At the heart of Nigeria's descent lies a fundamental betrayal, the broken covenant between the leaders and the led. The very essence of leadership, the solemn duty to serve the interests of the people, has been cast aside, replaced by a ruthless pursuit of personal gain and political expediency. The story of Nigeria's leadership is a litany of broken promises, missed opportunities, and a blatant disregard for the very people they swore to serve. It is a story of power abused, of trust eroded, and of a nation held hostage by a self-serving elite. The grand ideals enshrined in our Constitution, unity, faith, peace, and progress, ring hollow in the face of the reality that confronts us daily. The institutions designed to safeguard our democracy, to hold our leaders accountable, have been weakened, their effectiveness compromised by political interference and a lack of resources. The result is a profound crisis of leadership, a vacuum at the heart of our nation that threatens to consume us all. The electoral process, the cornerstone of any democracy, has been reduced to a cynical charade. Elections have become synonymous with violence, intimidation, and manipulation. The 2019 and 2023 elections highlight our broken system. International observers expressed serious concerns about the credibility of the process. The consequence is a deep and growing cynicism among the electorate. Voter turnout has plummeted, indicating widespread apathy and disillusionment. The tragedy of Nigeria's leadership crisis is compounded by the growing sense of apathy among the very people who have the power to effect change. We, the citizens of this great nation, have become accustomed to the dysfunction, inured to the corruption, resigned to the belief that nothing will ever change. We have retreated into our private enclaves, seeking solace in our families, our communities, our faith, while the nation burns around us. We have become spectators to our own demise, our voices muted by fear, by cynicism, by a sense of helplessness. The #EndSARS protests of 2020, a powerful eruption of youthful anger and frustration, offered a glimmer of hope. For a brief moment it seemed as though the old order was being challenged, that a new generation was rising up to demand accountability. But the brutal crackdown that followed, the silencing of dissenting voices, sent a chilling message: challenge the status quo at your peril. Fear once again tightened its grip on our collective psyche. We stand at a crossroads, a pivotal moment in our nation's history. The path we choose, the actions we take, will determine the fate of generations to come. Will we continue down the road of apathy and resignation, our silence, a tacit acceptance of our fate? Or will we find the courage to demand better, to hold our leaders accountable, to build a Nigeria where the promise of our potential is finally realized? The time for complacency is over. The time for courage is now. Is there hope for Nigeria? The question hangs heavy in the air, but even in the darkest of nights, a single star can illuminate the path forward. We, the Nigerian people, are a resilient lot. We have weathered storms that would have shattered lesser nations. It is this spirit that must guide us as we navigate the path to recovery. Our strength lies in our diversity. For too long, the narrative of Nigeria has been one of corruption, poverty, and despair. It is time to reclaim our narrative, to tell our own story, to redefine what it means to be Nigerian. Change begins with each of us. It starts with a commitment to personal responsibility and integrity. Our votes are our voices, our weapons against corruption and complacency. The challenges facing Nigeria are too great, too complex to be solved by any one individual, any one group, or any one political party. It requires a collective effort, a coming together of all Nigerians, irrespective of tribe, religion, or social status. We must rediscover the spirit of unity that characterized our struggle for independence. We need our brightest minds, both at home and in the diaspora, to contribute their talents and expertise to the task of nation building. We need our entrepreneurs to create jobs, our educators to nurture a new generation of leaders, our artists and writers to inspire us with hope and a vision for a better future. The task ahead will not be easy. There will be setbacks, disappointments, and moments of doubt, but we must persevere. We must never lose sight of the dream, the vision of a Nigeria that fulfills its promise, a Nigeria that takes its rightful place as a beacon of hope and progress in Africa and the world. This is a call to action, a rallying cry to all Nigerians both at home and abroad. The time for complacency is over, the time for action is now. Let us answer the call of history, let us rise to the challenge of our time, let us build a Nigeria that we can all be proud of. What will you do? How will you contribute? The future of Nigeria depends on the answer to these questions. Let us choose hope over despair, action over apathy, and unity over division. Let us together write a new chapter in the Nigerian story, a chapter defined by progress, prosperity, and a shared commitment to building a brighter future for generations to come. We stand amidst the ruins of our forefathers' dreams. Nigeria, once the jewel of Africa, now bears the heavy crown of poverty capital of the world. The hopeful legacy of our independence has been squandered, our economy crippled by corruption, starved of investment. But amidst the despair, a flicker of hope persists. The time for lamentation is over, the time for action is now. We cannot afford to be bystanders in our own story. The future of Nigeria rests on our collective shoulders. Let us draw inspiration from acts of courage and resilience. Empower our youth with tools and opportunities. Nigeria is defined by its unwavering spirit. The time for rebirth is now. The time for Nigeria is now. If you like this video, please subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and see you on the next one.